for the solicitor, and I have 7 o'clock, but we do not have a quorum yet.
That's fine, Bob. We can wait 5 to 10 minutes.
Yep. Andrew, we're in a hold. You don't have a quorum yet.
You're on mute, Andrew.
Sorry, I said I had significant difficulties. The link was unresponsive for a while, so I don't know if I'm going to drop out or not.
I did get a message from Mr. Holby that he was ready to sign in, as well as from Mr.
Yep.
France. So we'll give him a couple minutes.
I saw those.
Mr. Holby just arrived. I'll let him in. As quickly as arrived, he disappeared. Mr. Holby and Mr. Thibodeau are on their way in. When they're here, then you should have a quorum.
Okay.
I had to send Chuck Thibodeau the link, so he should be here.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him promoted. Having issues with this tonight.
Yeah, there seem to be a couple of hiccups with the signing in tonight.
Mr.
I don't
Thibodeau
think
should
he
be
has
on his
to-
way in.
Chuck just went in.
He's in. Yep. So you have a quorum, Mr. Ellis,
Okay, so the only one not here is Mr. Francis.
and Mr. Nice.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Nystrom was excused. I don't know what happened with Mr. Francis. But in any event, let us commence the meeting of the Town of Warren Zoning Board. This is the meeting of January 19th, 2022. Quorum has been determined. I am here. I am the chair, Andrew Ellis. I see that the vice chair, Barrett Holby, is here. Mr. Jason Raynone is here. Michael Elves is here, who is usually an alternate, but at the present will be a voting member since Mr. Nystrom is absent, and I see we have Mr. Chuck Thibodeau on as well. The only person not present is David Francis. If he should join at some point here, we'll be able to participate in the next application coming up.
Mr. Ellis, could I just review some Zoom protocols because it's been a little while since we did it for members of the
Sure.
board as well as members of the public. So this is being done as a webinar. So right now, the only people that are allowed to speak are members of the board as well as the solicitor and myself. When your application comes up, I will allow you the ability to appear as a panelist and speak. If I don't recognize your name as a participant as it relates to the application, I'm going to ask you to use the raise your hand icon so I can recognize you. When your application is done, you'll be removed from a panelist and put back as an attendee. And if there are members of the public that want to speak to an application after it's been heard initially, I'm going to ask that you use the raise your hand icon as well so that I can let you in. Thank you, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rulli, for reviewing that. I would just also remind the board members, when you're speaking, identify again who you are, in case some people are on the phone and don't have the video capabilities to see who's speaking. Having said that, this is the chair speaking. The first matter of business tonight is the approval of minutes from the November 17th, 2021 meeting. There was no meeting in December due to the lack of a quorum, so the most recent minutes are from November. Those have been circulated, I believe. Does anyone have any comments, or is there a motion on those minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as is.
Okay, that was Mr. Elves making the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
That was Vice Chair Barrett Holby seconding the motion. All in favor?
Mr. Ellis, you want me, how about if I do a roll call so we have
Okay.
it on the record?
Very good.
Mr. Rainone,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Alves,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
Mr. Ellis.
Aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. The next matter is old business. There's a remand from the Superior Court, but we need to have the solicitor speak to this because I believe it needs to be continued due to the lack of a quorum of the same 5 members who were present for the original case.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. That's correct. And because we don't have the alternate who heard the entire application, my recommendation is to continue to next month in compliance with RIGL.
All right. Does someone have a motion on the board to continue this due to a lack of the quorum? And that would be a continuance to the March zoning meeting.
This is
February.
Mr. Rainone. I will make a
February.
motion.
I'm sorry, yes,
Yep.
let me correct that, the February meeting.
Yes, I will make a motion to continue the discussion of application 20-37, the appeal thereof, to the February zoning meeting.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it. This is a Vice Chair Barrett.
I'll do a roll call. Mr. Ellis,
Aye.
Mr. Rainone,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Alves,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau.
Aye.
Okay, the continuance is approved. So this item will be on the agenda for the February meeting.
Mr. Chair, as you recall, there was a request from Attorney Cox for new business number 4 and number 5 to be moved up on the agenda to accommodate a conflict that he had. Sorry if
Thank
you were
you.
going to do that.
Yeah. You beat me to it, Bob, but thank
Sorry.
you for the diligent reminder. I would like to suggest that we're going to rearrange the agenda to hear items number 4, which is application 21-07, and item 5, which is 2108. These are an extension of a previously granted special use permit and variance. We're going to move those up to the top of new business. I'm just asking, is there someone on the board to make a motion to reorder the agenda as described?
This is
I'll
Mr.
make a
Rainone,
motion.
so moved.
I think Mr. Rainone made that. Is there a second?
Mr. Al, second.
Mr. Elves has seconded it. Bob, roll call.
Mr. Renown,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Alves,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
and Mr. Ellis.
Aye. Very good. So the agenda has been reordered.
And
Good
Attorney
evening,
Cox is here.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Cox. Always nice to see you. So give us a brief overview of this largely administrative matter to extend your variance and your special use permit. I think you're still muted, Mr.
Yeah, you have
Cox.
to unmute yourself.
Go.
There we
Good
go.
evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Attorney Bruce Cox speaking now. I'm here on behalf of TPE Inc., which was the developer for this project. A request by Next Amp, which is the entity that's going to require the development and actual construction of it, had filed a formal letter with the board requesting an extension of this. As you can imagine, a project of the scope and size of this, it takes time to move things through the steps. And they're largely there. This would normally expire on February 26th of this year, 2022. So we are being cautionary here and not waiting until the February meeting, coming forward today to ask for this extension. It is anticipated in the letter that could actually be starting to pull permits and such this spring. So it's as you said, largely administrative, and I do appreciate being put forward on the agenda.
Yep. And so this is a 6-month extension for both your special use and your variance that the board previously granted.
That is correct.
Okay. Is there any questions from members of the board? No. As I said, and part of, I think, the letter that also due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, there have been delays and material cost increases and labor availability and everything we've heard on numerous occasions before.
Yes.
Okay. Are we taking public comment on this extension?
Negative, it's an administrative matter.
All right. Any other questions from the board as to why this extension is necessitated? Doesn't appear to be. So we will have 2 motions, because these are 2 separate matters. So would someone like to make a motion on extending the special use permit?
This
I
is
can,
Mr. Ray. Oh, go ahead, Barry.
I'll try to make a motion to extend application 21-7 DJ Development and Owner and TPE RIWA 1 LLC applicant 35 Schoolhouse Road plat map requests an extension of the special use permit under section 32-56 to install a utility scale solar energy facility in the R40 zoning district. We want to have 2 motions, or shall I combine them?
Yep, we're gonna have 2 separate motions. We're gonna vote on this
Separate
one,
motions, okay.
and then we'll have another one, please.
All right, apologize for that. The applicant has had some hardship getting the timing right with the putting together all the labor and COVID-19, and we've seen these delays before, and this is a huge project. So granting it, with not granting it would be a real hardship on the applicant, and it's something that the town would like to see is that solar farm put in.
Okay, is there a second on this?
This is Mr. Reno, and I'll second.
Very good.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
Mr. Ellis,
Aye.
Mr. Renown,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
and Mr. Alves.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I will let you know that Mr. Francis has arrived.
I do see Mr. Francis. He can rejoin participation after we conclude these 2 extensions and we move
Correct.
on to the first matter of new business. All right, is there someone who'd like to make a motion on the extension of the variance for this applicant? Barrett, did you want to just follow up with a second motion?
I can do that. We'll grant application 21-8 DJ Development Owner and TPE RIWA1 LLC applicant, 35 Schoolhouse Road, plat map 21, lot 9, request for an extension of the variance under sections 32-89, 32-56, 2, and 32-141C to install a utility scale solar energy facility within 50 feet of wetlands less than the required property line setbacks and proposed work within 200 feet of a man-made pond, the R40 zoning district. And we will repeat that the difficulties of getting all our ducks in a row due to the slowness of the economy and COVID-19 and other shortages give these guys another 6 months to pull the permits and get the project started.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second it.
as
Chuck.
well.
I think that was Chuck on the second.
Mr. Ellis,
Aye.
Mr. Renone,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
and Mr. Alves.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. The extension has been granted, Mr. Cox, for both of your matters. Good luck getting this started, and hopefully it's
very much.
successful.
Thank you very much and Happy New Year to everybody, by the way.
Yes, good to see you. Happy New Year.
Take care.
Very
I'll
good.
let the-
All right.
Seems as if the next applicant is here, so as you describe what it is, I will
Yep.
endeavor to let them in.
Okay, so we'll now be moving back to item 1 under new business. And Mr. Francis will be participating as an alternate on this matter and all matters going forward. So this is for application number 2146, Gregory and Caitlin Toves, the owner and applicant, 22 Asylum Road, plat 19, lot 90. They have a request for a variance under 3277 for relief to install a shed which will exceed the 20% allowed lot coverage in the R10 zoning district. So do we have someone from the applicant connected?
He is. And Mr. Toves, is there anyone else besides yourself that's going to offer testimony tonight?
My wife is sitting here.
Right, but no one else that I can't see in Zoom.
No, just
Okay.
us.
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Toves, if you want to give us a brief summary of what you're intending to do and why you're seeking relief on this application for the hardship that you're over the lot coverage.
Absolutely. Thank you for your time, Mr. Chairman, and the board. Thank you for hearing my request. As a family man and a father of very active 9-year-old twins, we have accumulated 2 of everything since they were born. Toys, bicycles, scooters, and lots of sports equipment, all taking up the majority of space in our garage to the point where I haven't been able to park in the garage for years. Anything I can't fit goes outside in the yard under tarps, as well as my log splitter, garden tiller, and vegetable garden tools. We do have an old existing shed that is completely filled and stacked 6 feet high with patio furniture, tables, chairs, pool toys, and pool supplies. With this new shed, we can organize everything in my yard, protect things from the weather, have security, safety, and avoid being an eyesore to everyone passing by. Also, organize our garage, making room to find things we need, hopefully parking our cars in there as we intended. The new shed will not be visible from the road nor negatively affect our neighbors in any way. We have a great relationship with all of our neighbors.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak.
Great. So the required lot coverage in this zone is 20%. So by
Correct.
adding this shed, you're going to be going over the 20%. In the application, you've given some square foot numbers, but do you know what is the percentage the new coverage will be? Is it going to be 22 or 25, or what are we working up to?
It's only 160 square feet is the new shed.
So was the existing coverage of 3576, was that already exactly at 20%?
Yes,
So the current coverage was exactly at 20, and now you're adding this extra 160 square feet. So we could probably say that we're at, what,
37.
22% maybe? Does someone want to do the mathematics? And Jason
Correct.
is working on it. All right, while Jason's working out the math, do any board members have any specific questions regarding the need for this encroachment beyond 20% and the hardship he's dealing with here? I don't see anyone having any comment. Okay, let's go to the public. Is there anyone present on Zoom or on the phone that would like to offer commentary on this application?
So we have no one on the phone, Mr. Ellis, and if
Okay.
someone from the public would like to comment on this, if you could use the raise your hand icon, I will allow you to speak. I am not seeing anyone, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, so we can close the public portion of the hearing. We'll come back to the applicant. So the reasoning for this variance is that you have an active family with including twins, and you have a lot of equipment, accessories, and other relevant items that need to be better organized and properly stored. And your existing storage on the property is already fully maxed out.
correct.
Okay. Does anyone on the board have any final points they'd like clarification on why this variance is needed?
I have a slight question. What about the
Okay.
old shed?
That was Barrett asking the question.
The old shed is filled with patio furniture, pool supplies, pool toys, tables and chairs. I really have barely any walking room in there. And as the
That's gonna
season, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, this is the Vice Chair Barrett Colby. So, so that shed's going to remain.
Correct.
The new shed is going to take up the contents of the two garages. Is that correct? Or some of it?
It's going to help reorganize things in the garage and what's been leaked outside the garage as well, with the items in the yard.
Okay.
And the new proposed shed, it appears from the site plan, it's compliant with all the setbacks that are required for the new accessory structure. Correct? To your understanding is that it's compliant?
It is.
Yeah, and it appears so from the site plan. We have 15 feet to the side yard, 120 feet from the rear yard, and approximately 100 feet from the front property line, which would be more than appropriate for an accessory structure. Okay, are there any other questions or comments from the board? Okay, would anyone on the board like to make a motion pertaining to this variance?
Mr. Chair, this is Mr. Rainone. I can make a motion as soon as I get my head in order. I will move approval of application 21-46, Gregory and Caitlin Tobes, owner and applicant, 22 Asylum Road, plat map 19, lot 90. Request for a variance under section 32-77 for relief to install a shed which will exceed the 20% allowed lot coverage in the R10 zoning district. In approving this variance, we will note that the hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure. and not due to the characteristics of the surrounding area. The lot is large enough, however, the current lot coverage is 20.5%. So this is an existing non-conforming characteristic of the land. The hardship is not a result of any prior action by the applicant. They are simply seeking to provide additional storage to accommodate a growing family. The granting of the requested variance will not alter the general character or of the surrounding area, in so much as the shed will not be readily viewable from the street. And in review of the property, there is shielding vegetation to the side yard, so this should not be an issue. And granting the relief would be the least relief necessary, in so much as we are only dealing with lot coverage. The placement of the shed would meet all other zoning requirements. If we were to not grant this variance, it would amount to more than simply a mere inconvenience for the family, as they would continue to lack adequate storage to be able to properly protect and secure their belongings outside of their house.
Okay. Are there any amendments or conditions to this motion?
Oh, I will add that
Yes.
the resulting lot coverage will be 21.4%. So for the sake of argument, we can round up to an allowable 22% lot coverage.
Very good. Thank
Fellas, I
you.
just want to note that on the assessor's record, the current lot coverage, because the patio does not count, is just over 18%, but I don't know how accurate that is. I mean, if you look at Northeastwood valuation, add up what the lot coverage is, it's about 18%.
So is the shed,
At
That
that
shed does
point,
not appear to be on the assessor's record. Based on my calculation, there's about 3,180 feet of lot coverage presently. The lot itself is 17,444 square feet.
yeah, so based on the maximum building coverage listed as existing, we're a shade over 20%. And we would actually be within a rounding error of saying that it's basically the same. So we'll say allowable is 22% for the sake of making sure that years down the road, this doesn't come back for questions.
and the pool is included in the coverage?
That's not shown on the card either. It should be. If it's in
Is there
brown.
sorry, we're getting a little off topic, or well, not off topic, but a little bit into some more detail here. So is there a raised deck surrounding the pool?
No, it's an in-ground pool.
No, not
Oh,
at
it's
all.
an in-ground pool. So the paved area would not count, so that's the patio.
Right.
Oh, well, then by that logic, I don't know if the pool would count, because generally we only count things that are built above the ground. I
Right.
don't know if we count things that go down into the ground. So
Correct.
the pool is a non-issue. So basically we have the house with the porch and the old shed are the existing lot coverage.
In the garage.
No, and the garage is attached to the house, correct?
Right, but it gets a
Yes.
separate calculation on the assessor's card.
And so did we determine that the existing coverage on this is at 18%?
If I add up if I look at the assessor's card in the building sub areas and I take out the patio, then the total square footage of improvements is 3,180 square feet on a lot that is 17,444 square feet. So that number is 18 plus almost 19% lot coverage.
All right.
That does not include the existing shed, apparently.
Oh, it does not include the existing shed. So if we add another 140 square feet, then we're approximately at 20% existing.
That's correct.
All right. So I think we're back to where we started. We're going to allow coverage up to 22%. So your new shed, once you add up everything that's there, your total coverage, excluding the pool and patio, cannot exceed 22%. The applicant is clear with that, Mr. Toes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So the motion stands as is. We're granting approval for lot coverage of up to 22%. Were there any other modifications to the motion? Is there a second?
I'll second it, Chuck.
That was Mr. Francis with the second.
Actually,
Mr. Renaud,
Chuck beat me.
Chuck did.
Chuck beat me to it.
Mr. Renaud,
Yes.
Mr. Ellis,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
and Mr. Renaud.
Mr. Alves.
Mr. Alves.
Francis?
Yes. Mr. Francis, you're as an alternate right now.
Oh, I thought I was voting on this item.
No, you're participating but not voting.
My apologies.
That's right. So you would be the sixth person. We have five. Mr. Alves is holding the position right now of a voting member because Mr. Nystrom is not here.
Mr. Alves, did I get your vote?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so the motion passes 5-0. So good luck with getting your shed constructed, and hopefully it'll meet the needs of your family. Okay. Number 2 under new business, we have application 2147, Mota Realty LLC, the owners and Creative Signworks applicants, 651 Metacom Ave, flat 15A, lot 251. This is a request for a variance under 32115 to install signs that exceed the maximum square footage allowed in the B zoning district. Is a representative of the applicant here.
If they are here, yes, there is. So just give me a moment to let the gentleman in. And Mr. Rochon should be in the meeting right now.
All right. I don't.
Bob, if you would just identify yourself and who you
Oh,
represent and your address. And
Hi, my name is Bob Rochon. I'm with Creative Signworks. I represent Bajas, and this is for the 654 Metacom Avenue.
Okay. So, Mr. Rochon, give us a brief description of what it is you're proposing for the signage. Tell us how much beyond the allowable amount you're asking for, and give us some reasons as to why the quantity proposed is necessary for the operation of this business.
Sure. First off, can I ask, do you have copies of the drawings that we have submitted?
We do.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so it's to my understanding that in this location is only allowed 32 square feet, or 32 square feet, or even 36. I'm not quite sure at the moment. It's not on my drawings. There is an existing pylon. The existing pylon alone, if he was only allowed that, would be 49.5.
Is that
So
is that counting both sides of the pylon?
No, is that how you guys calculate it? Is
Yeah,
both
if there's going to be signage on both faces, that counts as two surfaces.
Right.
So
the sign is
existing size 49 is what you're saying on one side?
It's 49.5 on one side. So just that one sign would be,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 99 square feet just for that.
All right. So give us a rundown of what it is you're proposing.
So I don't know if you're familiar with Bajas, but Bajas has about 8 locations, and he has a certain look and a theme to all of his restaurants, which is the Bajas logo, the colorful awnings with the red pepper in the logo and things like that. So this is his signature, kind of like if it were, like a McDonald's or a Burger King, only better. But this is his look for all of his restaurants. So what we're actually asking the board for is an allowance to actually put up signage on the building that would actually enhance the building and make it look really inviting for his restaurant and work for him as well as a business. without any signage on the building, it just wouldn't make the building very attractive, as you can see in the original drawing. Right now, it's just brown and it has no life to it at all.
Yeah, and we're talking about, just so everyone knows, it's the former KFC building on Metacom Ave. So the signage, yeah, so the signage you're saying is consistent with what the owner's branding is for this particular restaurant.
Yes.
Can you speak?
Basically, the canopies alone are one of his. I mean, the canopies along with the Baja's logo is his signature look for his restaurants.
That's fine. I mean, is there signage on the canopy?
Well, we've proposed some lettering at the edge of the canopy. Yes.
And what is? It's very difficult to read at this small scale. What is that?
It just says like nachos, rice bowls, taco salads, burritos, salad bowls, quesadilla.
Okay, we're not. All right, so we're not going to count that.
So on the front one, it just says welcome.
Yeah, so we're not counting that towards. That's more informational. It's not really advertising. It's what your menu is and the directional welcome piece. We're not really going to count that. But in terms of adding up the square footage of this sign, you provided a chart, and
yes.
It's broken down into various things. There's the ba, the pepper, the A''S, fresh, grill, etc. Is this the size of the area occupied by those individual letters, or it is the box of a rectangle that fits around the area where those letters are located, which is how the ordinance calculates size?
So the how we have it broken down here is the actual. It's basically the size of the letters, the peppers together as a whole. How they're placed on the background and things like that is not it's not the way that we actually calculated the square footage. Is that what we needed to do for?
Well, I'm for the board? Still not quite. So the square footage will be calculated. So you've got the this whole thing with the chili pepper, the BA, the A, the apostrophe S. If you put a rectangle that would encompass that entire piece, that would count as that part's square footage. And then the fresh grill part, if you put a rectangle around the words fresh grill, that would be how we count the area taken by that.
Okay, so what I have available to me right now is I've taken the, unfortunately, I just don't have, it would take a second for me to pull it up to draw a rectangle around it. But let me just at least give you this information. Yeah. So basically, with the pages that you have, for the entrance elevation, the north and the south elevation together, that would come out to be 140.75 square feet. I'm sorry, 190.25 for those three elevations.
All right, so is that?
Now that didn't include fresh grill, so I added up fresh grill on the other elevations. And that would be because that was pretty easy for me to do. And I was doing that. Let me just do this again. So that would be another 16.77. So all of it.
So that's the name of the restaurant, right? Baja's Fresh Grill. That's the name. That's the name.
That is the name of the restaurant. Yes.
And so that's your advertising, your branding, your logo, your name. So that's
absolutely for all 8 locations that he already has. So this is, I guess for everything with the Baja's and the Fresh Grill, it would be a total of 207.02.
Okay, and so that's for 3 locations of that particular sign?
Yes.
All right, so there's 3 of that affixed to the building.
Yes.
Okay. Then I see something that's kind of difficult to read here, but it looks like there's something that says Spice Up Life and another pepper that's on the wall of the building.
So that is a proposed wall painting, like I guess a mural.
Yes, okay, so that's a sign as well.
Okay, that would be a sign.
So how many of those locations do we have? 2?
We have 2.
Okay, and so what approximately is the square footage of those? Again, a rectangle or some kind of regular shape that would encompass that
If you could
graphic.
just give me I apologize, I don't have that ready right off the top of my head, but I can get it for you real quick. Is there something else we could talk about while I'm pulling this
Yeah.
up?
All right, so we've got that. So then we have the two sides of the existing pylon sign, correct?
Yes, right, and that is
Okay,
existing,
and you,
right?
well, yeah, and we're putting it, so that counts towards the total. So you said you had approximately 49 square feet on each side of that pylon?
Yeah, yes, and I did include one side of that in the 207.02. So I would just add another 49.5,
All right, hold on.
and that would be 6, 5. So the new total, including the pylon, not including the murals, is 256.52.
All right, so that is for two sides of the pylon plus 3 locations on the building itself. Is that
Yes.
correct? All right.
That is correct.
Okay, so then we'll come back to the mural. But we also have, what is this shorter sign, this ground mounted sign?
So in the back of the building, as you can see right above at the top of page 1, in the top right-hand corner, there's an existing drive-through menu. They do not want to use the drive-through in a way that a normal drive-through. So he just wanted to he doesn't want to remove the sign. He just wants to put a sign on it, basically, that just says pickup window ahead. So it's going to be a pickup window, but it's not going to be an order. You're not going to order from the side.
Right,
Like
so
you
is
can actually
that,
go to the window to pick up your order that you've already ordered.
okay, so is that only one face of that thing?
Yes. And
All
I'm
right.
not even sure if that's going to light up.
Oh, well, okay, we haven't, I mean, right now, so right now we're just trying to figure out the square footage of the signs. So that thing on the
All right, I will.
drive up menu board, the part that says pickup window ahead, we would not count as part of the signs. That's more like directional, but the rest of the large rectangle that contains Baja's Fresh Grill, that would be a sign.
Mr. Ellis,
So
if I
that
could
would
just,
be included in it.
Mr. Ellis, if I can interject for a second. When this matter was before the town council for approval, it was represented to the town council that the drive-up window was not going to be utilized at all.
I don't know, is that something that we can, is that part of a decision by the town council stipulating that the drive-up window is not in service in
I
any
think that was
fashion?
part of the granting of their license.
So we could, if we were so inclined, grant branding signage on this low sign without the pickup window ahead part. If you want to put some kind of branding signage on here for the sake of branding, I suppose you can do it, but whether or not you utilize the pickup window, that would be something between you and the town council to determine. But if you want to have, the Baja's Fresh Grill as another identification piece on this low sign, we can certainly consider that, because that doesn't, just by putting it there doesn't necessarily mean you're using the window or not using the window.
Okay, so I believe, and I think up until today, one of my designers was, again, I'm trying to pull up the file right now. I believe that they might have even changed that, or wanted to change it to put a QR code on there so that people can maybe order from the parking lot. Is that something that could be done or not on that particular sign?
Just having a QR code and no logo
On the drive-through sign.
So it'd just be a giant QR code on the sign. Is that what you're proposing? There's no graphics other than that?
And again, I'll have that in 2 seconds. I really apologize for that, having that ready and right in front of you. So, for some reason, I think my Zoom is breaking up. So I'm having a hard time hearing you. I hope you can still hear me.
Mostly.
So I do believe he wants to okay. So I do believe he wanted to use that sign, basically just for people to order. And again, I'm not sure. I don't know how the town works with them on the use of that drive-through window. I just know that he wanted to use it as a pickup window, but not as this sign was not going to be used as an ordering sign.
So, okay, so so at present, what are you proposing for this existing menu sign? What is going to go on the face of that?
So there'll be a Baja's logo. I do have it in front of me, and I wish there was a way I can actually maybe
you can.
Could.
Let
me
can
see if
show
I
us.
can do this. Let me see.
I think you have to request to share your screen.
Okay. I'd probably have to flip this around, and I'm not quite sure how this would work.
Yeah, he has the ability to do that if he wants to. Can you, if you have it as a file on your computer, you can use the share screen icon on the bottom of your screen. And if you scroll over that to the right, it will pull up the files that you have open and just click on that.
Unfortunately, I'm not on Zoom on my computer because I don't have a microphone on the computer. So I'm working off an iPad. I could try to turn this around. You could just let me know if you could see it. Would that be an option?
We can give it a brief try.
Okay. Is it possible that you can see that?
Well, the back, I think the filter, because there's no face on it now, is just showing the background logo. It's not picking up. I think you'd have to turn the filter off.
Yes, let me do that. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah. All right, we're getting there.
Right.
Up a little bit. Up. Oh, good. Okay, stop. All right, so we've got the graphics of the Baja logo, the fresh grill, so that would count as signage. I don't think the QR code, in my opinion, counts as signage. We'll let the board discuss that. And then what's the red part at the bottom? Like, what's that red band?
It says scan the QR.
That's okay, so that's instruction.
It says scan.
Got it.
It just says to scan the QR code, park, and your order will be brought out to you. So I think now that I see this, it looks like this kind of goes in line with maybe what you had discussed with the owner about not using the window. So it just says scan the QR code to order, park, and your order will be brought out to you.
All right, so that makes sense, consistent with what we believe the town council has said, that people can drive up here, scan the QR code, and then the orders will be brought out. So for the purposes of this meeting and the signage, the only thing that we will count as signage on that is the area of the Baja's Fresh Grill. The QR code and the red instructions at the bottom are not signage.
Okay, so that would be 33 by 48, just say 12 square feet on that.
All right, fine. And then I see we have additional Baja's signage on the two front doors.
Is that
Again,
is that window lettering considered?
Yes,
in the total?
it is. Not the part that says exit and enter, or the part with the hours listed on the lower panel. But again, the logo and the words Baja's Fresh Grill on each of those windows, that is signage as well.
All right, let me just, so that is.
And again, an estimated rectangle to just come up with a size.
2 square feet per door, so that's an additional 4 square feet. And then let me get you the square footage on the logos. Oh, that's 7 by 8, so that would be 56 per wall. If you included that in there.
But what's that, the mural?
Yes, let us spice up your life.
Okay, so that whole mural thing on the wall is another 56 per location.
Yes.
All right, so what is the grand total of all this that we've just discussed.
$384.52.
Okay, so you're asking for 384.52, which we could just call 385 for the sake of argument. Square feet of signage where, what did we say was allowed, 36?
Correct,
Yes,
36.
yes, 36.
So you're asking for 10 times more signage than what is technically allowed.
We are.
Doesn't mean you're not getting it. I'm just stating the fact that we're looking at a tenfold increase in the amount of signage. So let me go to the board and see what the board's opinion would be on this quantity of signage on this building. Let me start with the vice chair, Mr. Holby. And you need to unmute yourself, Mr. Holby.
I
There we go.
apologize.
That's perfectly normal.
My opinion is that most of the signage is okay. And I have probably more questions for you, Andrew, since you know the signage better, and so does Jason. But I would say that, like, on the QR code sign, it probably has to be internally illuminated for that QR code. But on the back side of it, I'm wondering if it's possible to be just downlit or something like that for people who live on the street, won't, on the backside on the other street, won't quite see that. I have a couple of other questions.
Okay, let's answer the one about the QR code. There is nothing on the back of that sign? Is there just a blank panel or something?
Well, I think it says fresh grill pickup window ahead, and I think that's the back side of the QR code. Do I have that right or wrong?
Let me have
No.
Mr. Rushin.
So when we submitted these drawings, the proposal was to have the face of the drive-through menu to have the Baja's Fresh Grill pickup window ahead. That has been changed to proposing for the Baja's with the QR code on the face, the same thing, just on the face of that drive-through. And that face of that drive-through does face, I believe, the Monroe Muffler Shop. I believe the face of the drive-through menu does not point towards the residents.
And that's only one-sided, so the back of that piece,
Yes,
doesn't have anything on it.
It does not.
So that'll be just a blank piece of plastic or something.
Right. It would just be like a sign face.
Does it, the back of that where it illuminates, is that positioned west? Or are you proposing it's north? Because north would be towards Monroe, correct? And
So
west,
if that
west
if that
would be
is north,
down
I'm
towards,
sorry, I apologize.
heading towards Main Street. I used to eat Kentucky Fried Chicken when I was in high school, and that sign has been there. That ordering menu sign has probably been there since then.
It looks it.
No, it's behind the building facing the back.
Yes, it's
Yes.
not visible.
Correct.
It's not visible in the rendering, is correct. I mean, we can't see that sign because
Right.
it's blocked. It's
It's-
blocked by the building.
Yes. So the residents see the backside of that menu board.
Which would be a
Right.
solid material that would not allow light to come through. Is that accurate? The back.
I think that it illuminates towards the homes. If you're behind,
We're saying the back side of the sign should be
Yeah,
dark.
so the sign
That's
illuminates
facing-
towards the stockade fence.
correct. That's what it, on an angle maybe towards the fence?
It is on an angle towards the fence.
Yes, so it's partially west, partially north.
So the proposed illuminated face of that sign is sort of northwest facing. So that could be shining somewhat towards the residential area.
And it's the existing place where the old Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell faced. So we're not creating any They're not proposing any new position, correct?
I don't believe so. Mr. Rochelle, you're not moving that sign, right? You're just leaving it where it is, and you're adding the QR code piece onto the existing sign at its present location.
Did we lose Mr. Rochon?
I'm having difficulty. I just seem like
I'm sorry.
to come back now, but I am having a little bit of difficulty.
Okay,
It's
so
okay. I apologize. I'm
the
sorry.
menu ordering sign, you're not moving its location or its orientation. It's staying where
No.
it is, and you're just putting this QR code on it.
Actually, what we would like to do is the doors are in less than desirable condition, so we would like to repair the cabinet to put a new face on. So we would be basically fixing it up, so to speak. It is quite old.
All right, but it's not, you're not changing which way it's facing.
No, not at all.
Okay. So that's something we can discuss about the illumination of that, because we're going to get to that. But Barrett, I believe you had some other points.
I wanted to bring up the hours of operation, and therefore the hours of the lighting of the signs. Something we always talk about is downward lighting. This is on Metacom Avenue, and we're trying to clean that up. I know that the original Kentucky Fried Chicken sign on the two poles was a big plastic internally illuminated sign. And I'm wondering, since we're asking for so much more signage, if that could not be internally illuminated and some sort of better tasting sign. I don't know if we can do that, but at least downward lighting.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, let's let him address that. So we were going to get to this, but Barrett's brought it up at this point. So you're asking, as we had said, you're asking for a very large amount of signage beyond what's required. So that would be a bit of, that would be a big ask to get that quantity. Would you be willing to consider, if we were to give you that quantity or something close to it, changing these signs from being internally illuminated to being externally illuminated with downlighting or something else? While internal illumination is allowed in this zone along Metacom, it's not necessarily desirable. So are you open to considering a trade-off for more signage than is allowed if you were to give up the internal illumination?
I would. I don't think I have that authority to actually answer that right now because I don't have the owner with me. However, I think it'd be something that I would have to talk to him about. I know all the other restaurants are internally illuminated. I can say that, and again, this may not be any kind of advantage to the board, but I can say that his signage is it has some nice, deep, rich colors. That it's not cheap. It's classy looking. It's very it's very professional looking. The pylon we had proposed like a black background, so just the letters light up. So that also reduces the amount of white glare that would be on the side of the road. So I just I couldn't answer that right now, to be honest with you. I could present it to the owner, but I
mean, we may get to the point where we need a continuance if you need to gather some more information or consult with the owner, but keep in the back of your mind that there may be some negotiating here in terms of how much signage you want versus some other trade-offs you might be willing to compromise on in order to attain the larger amount of signage. Or it could be the case, and maybe you review this with the owner, maybe having lighted signage is more important than the quantity of signage, and you really want it to be internally lit. And maybe we agree on some number that's smaller for the quantity, but you get the illumination. So I think there's a discussion here to be had to find something that's satisfactory.
Do you have
yeah?
On page 4, we've presented a nighttime illumination of what we propose the location to look for. I mean, to look at night.
It's not overly clear. If you have that on your, because this is just a black and white thing we're looking at, so it doesn't really help that much. If you have that on your computer screen and want to show us that, it might.
Sure.
Because it's a little hard to understand what, I'm assuming the Bajas, the pepper thing, and the words fresh grill are illuminated. Is that correct?
Yes. Can you see
Yeah.
the screen?
If you move to the left slightly.
Okay, that would be that way.
Yep. Yep. All right. So it's basically what I said. The fresh grill part is illuminated and the word Bajas with the pepper is illuminated.
Yes, and those red stripes are illuminated.
Oh, all right. So we've got red stripes going down the side of the building. Is that wrapping onto the front as well? A little
Yes.
bit.
I didn't see that.
So we've got some illuminated red stripes. If you move it a little bit more to the left. Yeah, okay. So essentially we have 3 locations on the building where the Bajas and the pepper are illuminated. We have 2 sides of the pylon that are illuminated. We've got the fresh grill on the front. We've got the red stripes along the side, and we have potentially the menu board at the back that's illuminated.
Good.
Is that accurate, Mr.?
That would be accurate.
Okay,
Yes.
Mr. Roshan. All right.
Yes.
So,
Mr. Ellis, I'd just add that the council has limited their hours of operations too. So as you get into
okay.
the nighttime conversation,
Do we know what those hours are?
I think they said they would be closed by, and I don't have it specifically, but it's not 24 hours. I think that
No.
they are 9 or 10 o'clock during the week, maybe an hour later on the weekend, and then they would be out by, for customers, wouldn't be able to access the building after 10 o'clock, and then employees would be cleaning up and the lights would be out by 10 most nights.
We
Okay,
have
so-
on the door right now 10 to 10. So I know you can't see it on your drawing, but we have proposed on our drawing 10 to 10.
All right. So would the advertising signage, meaning the Bajas, the fresh grill, the red stripes, that decorative sort of stuff, would that be shut off when the restaurant closes for business, like when customers are no longer able to pick up? If employees are still cleaning up, they can have the inside lights on to see what they're doing. But could the signage piece be turned off when customer hours are over?
I don't see a problem with that at all.
Yeah, you can condition that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
you
that could
definitely
be-
can condition
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't think we would have a problem with that at all.
All right, so potentially we could condition the illumination. So let's go back to Vice Chair Barrett. You had some other points?
A couple. I would say that recently in later last year, we saw that so Mr. Roshan knows that the McDonald's signs got reduced and the buildings got cleaned up quite a bit. They've been there for a very long time, and the Burger King as well. While they still the Burger King still has an internally illuminated sign. I think that got reduced, and we reduced or took away one of the signs on the southwest side of that building. So it is something that we should consider as far as that pylon sign, if that can be changed or not, or at least keep it in discussion. The hours of illumination just got answered, and that's actually all I have. I think downlighting, internally illuminated signs, the hours. We addressed the drive-through and how they're ordering. So I'm all set.
Okay, Mr. Rainone.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I necessarily have any questions. I think as far as the illuminated red stripe is concerned, I think personally I would call that decorative. I'm not sure that I would call it signage. Because in the absence of the signage on either end, if that was simply a visual statement on the outside of any other building, we wouldn't call it signage. I think my personal opinion is that for a building of this size, this is an obscene amount of signage. That's not to say that an argument for that much signage can't be made. But I'm having a hard time making the leap to even being able to see some of the side building signage from a number of the positions that you can drive by this building on Metacom. I know driving up from the south, the building will be gone by the time you could see the signage over the pickup window.
Which we're not using, I would emphasize, so.
Right.
Why are we putting signage over, I mean, it looked on two sides of the building, that pickup window configuration happens on both the, north and south side, Mr. Roshan?
We do have it illustrated on the north and the south. It looks like there was a sign there before. Maybe it was a Taco Bell. And
Yeah, one was
his
probably
logo
the
just-
KFC and one was the Taco
Okay.
Bell.
And then it just because of the design of the building, and he wanted to continue to use it. We just thought that it seemed like an area that was fitting for a logo.
Mhm.
I think if anything, the side that faces the Monroe muffler would be, I guess that would be probably an easy one to say. If we had to start removing some signage, that side there is tight to see, I believe, anyways, from the road. But again, I've only been to the site a few times, so I'm not too familiar with the whole area.
I think what we're getting at with the two side signs is they're not really serving a particular function. If we're not using the pickup window as a pickup window, is there a real need to call out attention to them since you already have the pylon sign which faces north and south? Why do we need additional signage on the building that's facing north and south? It may be excessive.
I think if I were to sort of spitball where my mind is going
I'm
right
starting
now.
to lose you again.
Oh, tell me when you can hear me.
There we go. Okay.
All right. I think if I were to spitball where I'm going with
There we go.
this
Yep. Go.
currently, I will say that, as far as classy internally illuminated signage is concerned, I sort of am okay with the direction of the pylon sign and the sign on the front of the building. It's not just a giant piece of plexi with screen printed letters on it. The black background on the pylon sign to keep the illuminated profile relatively small is a reasonable way to go. And we've requested that on other acrylic faced signs on Metacom and basically been told no. That approach is a nice one. The stylized channel letters on the front of the building make sense and tie into that pylon sign reasonably well. Even those two signs are beyond way over what we would have in the code for an allowable amount of signage. And I honestly think, for my own personal aesthetic, those two signs alone on a building this size, shape, and placement is more than enough. Carrying that illuminated red line around the building to tie it together and using additional graphic touches like the murals you're talking about at a lower pedestrian level, I think that feels like a much classier way of unifying the outside of the building than just taking a cut and paste stamp of the same illuminated signage and sticking it on every available face of the building. I think under the circumstances, considering the amount of additional signage you're asking for, I think where I'm sort of settling in from a compromise standpoint would be, accepting the illuminated signage for the pylon sign and the front face of the building and requesting that the two signs on the north and south side of the building go away. Not the graphic, the Spice Up Your Life mural graphic down at the pedestrian level, but those two large format signs on the north and south side of the building, my inclination is to say they shouldn't be there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rainone. Mr. Thibodeau, what are your feelings on the signage?
I'm not really concerned about the overall amount of signage or the illumination, the internal illumination on the pylon sign I'm fine with. but I'd like to see some options for some downlighting on the rest of the signage, kind of soften up the look of this a little bit more, if that could be done.
All right, so you'd like to see the signage on the building have some alternative lighting options.
Correct.
And Mr. Roshan, one of the other options we've employed in the past is instead of having the channel lettering internally illuminated, it's been turned into halo lettering, where the letter itself is, a white piece of metal or something, but it has a lighting element on the back of the letter, so it illuminates, it stands off from the building and it gives a glow around it for that halo effect. So that may be something to consider on some of this signage.
We also do make that, we do manufacture that. So I'm very, I am familiar with the halo effect. The only thing I would just try to ask the board is that, again, all his other restaurants have the facelit channel letters and not the halo, and even the downlighting. And I understand the downlighting is nice. It's nice and soft. I know this isn't about me personally. I know the pylon sign there is there, but I'd really love to get rid of that pylon. And then
Is
just
that
have the signage on the building. However, it is
that
there,
something
and,
the owner might? Is that something the owner might entertain? Is getting rid of the pylon sign?
if he could have the north and south elevations, I could present that. I mean, because it's so close to the building. The pylon itself is so close to the building, and it really cuts the traffic flow when you pull in there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I said, where this is, we're going to let the rest of the members make their comments, but I think where this is, you can see where this is going, that you probably will need to go back to the owner and investigate some alternative strategies that we might want to see in some renderings at the next meeting. But let me go through and hear what the rest of the members have to say here. Mr. Francis, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Mr. Renon that the north and south signage, although it does tie into an overall theme, it looks like it really doesn't offer any advertising. It's basically facing towards residential homes or the other business. You can't really see it from the street. So I just think it's extra, and I think it just is very busy looking. I think getting rid of that pylon is huge. If anyone of you on the board have ever been through that parking lot, it's very difficult to navigate through that parking lot.
That is an excellent point. It is a hazard to traffic.
It has always been, and I can tell you, when I was in high school, there were so many times where people would ruin their cars on that pylon. So it is a hazard, in fact. I do like the murals on the side. I think they offer some artistical touch. I think it looks very good. I do like the way it illuminates at night. Looking through the materials, it does offer a very unique presence. It has just the letters and the chili sign appearing, although I think the backlight would look better than that. So I think we have some room to negotiate relative to square footage. So it would be interesting to hear what the owner has to say.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Elves, what would you like to contribute?
Yes, I think I agree with the high pylon sign and the two signs in the north and south. I think that's over in abundance. The other thing I'm asking as well is, if we give that amount of signing, are we setting a precedence for future on Medicum Avenue?
And no, technically no, because each case is considered independently on its own merits, that the quantity alone of the signage, some other building may warrant a certain quantity of signage that maybe is even more than this based on its size or its distance from the road or something. So we're focusing on what is appropriate for the scale of this business to safely communicate to customers. It's not going to something that's not going to create a hazard or a distraction for traffic, but provides adequate visibility. So we need to judge this signage only in the context of what we believe to be appropriate for this particular location. And other future signage applications would have to be considered independently.
Okay,
I will just add that, we are in the process of developing form-based code and design guidelines for the revitalization of Metacom. With respect to murals, if there's no advertisement of the business and it's just a mural of some Mexican art, that is not considered a sign. The Warren Arts and Cultural Commission has purview over murals. I mean, we added one at Blount. So just as long as it's not an advertisement, it's not a sign.
Bob, is there any sort of draft document of what might this look like that could be shared with Mr. Rochon as a reference of what?
Yeah, I can certainly get that to him, Mr. Ellis. Thank you.
So Mr. Rochon, I think Bob is going to send you, just for purely reference purposes, if you care to glance at it, some design guidelines that might be forthcoming that maybe could offer some inspiration. But I think what I'm hearing in general is that the board would like to see some renderings of some alternative proposals that are either, well, and or less signage or signage placed at different locations, or signage that is illuminated in a different way, whether that is downlighting with a gooseneck fixture or something, or the halo illumination, and maybe a combination thereof. If you want to propose, the front one to be internally illuminated and something else uses the halo, please feel free to come up with 2 or 3 different ideas for what we might see. I think it would also be useful to have one of the rendered views include that menu board with the QR code so we can see that in the context of the building, what that's going to look like, and maybe proposals for, is that menu board internally illuminated, or is it behind a glass, case door and it has a fixture overhead or whatever it is, some different options on that. So I think we want you to be creative, show some different possibilities of trading off more signage, less signage, different kinds of lighting. And I think we'll probably be able to reach some kind of consensus. But in order to do that, I think you would require more time to put that together. So if that is amenable to you, you need to ask us as the board to please continue this to the next hearing so you can have time to prepare that.
Mr. Ellis, I would recommend maybe see if anybody in the public wants to give some input also.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Ben. So yes, since we're discussing it, let's see, Bob, is there anyone in the public that wants to
So I would just
comment?
ask if anyone from the public is here and would like to comment on this application, if you would use the raise your hand icon. There are no members using the phone, and I am not seeing any members raising their hand, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, good that we entertained that. There will still be an
Chairman,
opportunity. Yeah,
Chairman Ellis, can I add one little thing?
certainly.
With all the things you asked for, our packet had the day and night thing, but our it's in black and white, and depending if it's another Zoom meeting or not, it'll be. I didn't realize there was a side lighting on the corners of the building, and if Mr. Rochon can provide us with
Mr. Holby, he might have, I mean, that might have come from
there you
how the clerk's office had copied that. So I'm hopeful that in February you will be back to in-person meetings. If we're not, we will make sure we get this to all the members in color. And your point is well taken.
Could it be oh, go ahead, Mr. Francis.
I'm sorry. I was able to share my screen and actually use what was on the link on our website. I don't know if you guys can.
This
see.
is this is posted on our town website?
Yep.
Kind of what we do.
Well, I missed.
But your point is very valid,
Yeah.
Mr. Holby, that if we're sending the packets out and the applicant gives us something in color, we should copy it in color.
I did have some nice packets for you. I did plan on an in-person meeting, but I understand the Zoom. So I did have some nice packets, 11 by 17 made up for you. Before we leave or end, can I just ask the board, so because we missed the December meeting, my customer is looking to actually open next Monday. He just wants a banner out front that says now open. But to wait another month to get an approval on signage, I think would seriously impact him in some kind of way financially. So I understand, and this may be rushing it, and you may just say no, but is it possible to get the board to even possibly agree on some front signage for him so he can open? I know he's planning on opening next Monday. Whether that is approved by the town is, not anything that we have to deal with, but I'm preparing some interior signage right now currently for him so he can
Mr.
actually
Ellis,
open
when
the
we had
doors.
the renovation at McDonald's, we did give them authorization to do a temporary banner
Yep.
for a period of time.
Which the ordinance allows temporary, like grand opening banners or, signage of that nature that is temporary for a period of time when a business opens. So, that would certainly be reasonable that you could put up some banners in the interim.
Well, I went by it today and there is a sign on the building already.
It says coming soon.
Yeah.
But it's still a
believe,
sign.
Okay. If that wasn't supposed to go up, I apologize.
I think that's probably, that's a temporary sign, I'm assuming. It's not.
Right. Could we
It's
just
not
change that
a-
to a now open
Yes.
banner?
Yeah, you could certainly do that. That kind of grand opening banner is permitted in the ordinance. Even if the banner had, was printed with the Baja's logo with the chili pepper on a banner, you could certainly do that. Dollar General, before they had their signs up, had a temporary banner with their yellow and black and white Dollar General logo on it that said now open or whatever it said. So that's certainly permissible.
Could I also ask the board, if we were to take off the two sides, the Bajas on the north and south, and just so that he could have some front signage, would we still have to? Do you still want to see the options and the different options and things like that? Could we ask the board for approval to do the front signage, the Baja's Fresh Grill on the front, and maybe just the pylon panels?
We'll have to let's see what the board thinks, but I think part of the items that were up for discussion was there seemed to be some feeling that if the pylon could be eliminated, that might be a preferable thing. But let's hear from the board.
Well, even just we could even potentially put that on hold on, and maybe we could get approval for the Baja's Fresh Grill just on the front.
Well, let's hear from the board. Barrett, what do you think? Do you want to see options for all the signage, or would you be comfortable approving part of the signage?
I'd be comfortable approving just the front of the building for whatever they want to do. If Jason or you had the idea of the internally illuminated letters, I've seen that done and it does look good, and that I'm going to leave that up to you guys. But if we can get rid of the pylon and the signage on the two sides, I wouldn't have a problem granting the front of the building and have that done, with the possible exception of the corner lighting. I worry, I didn't get a chance to bring it up. I forgot to bring it up, and I didn't see it in the package. I think the corner the lighting on the corners of the buildings, I think it's too much of a carnival atmosphere, but I'm not designing a sign and I'm not a designer. So I'll leave that up to you
Just
guys.
ask the
But
solicitor,
yes, I wouldn't have a problem.
if we bifurcate the application, Ben, can we do that? Or does that require an amended application, or how does that work?
Sure. The cleanest way would be for the applicant to ask to amend it and limit it to exactly the front of the proposed restaurant, and then come back with a new application for the other signs. That's the
So it would
cleanest way of
require a
doing
new
it.
application for whatever wasn't approved tonight.
It's the cleanest way of doing it.
Yeah, and so Barrett, I would also say if we were to approve the front, I don't think at this time we're not making that contingent upon the elimination of the pylon and the sides. Those are still up for grabs and under negotiation, I think, in terms of what those could be. So it would be potentially an approval of the front with a sort of TBD on what happens with the pylon and the sides.
Right. Yeah, and I'd leave, if he does the front, I think for his business, I'd let him do the QR code sign.
Oh, also the QR code sign.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Ranone.
I could potentially get behind that. I think what I would probably say as a caveat is if we were to approve the front facade sign as designed with the interior lighting as designed, I think my caveat would be at that point, the best that you could hope for coming back with an additional sign proposal would be either the north and south facing signs or the pylon. I would not approve both.
Okay, Mr. Francis.
I think that we lose our leverage in negotiating if we start piecemealing this. I think that if the owner wants to open, we can certainly give him a temporary sign, just like the grand opening or something like that. We could certainly allow a QR code sign to be illuminated in the back, but I think we give up our leverage and our overall understanding of how the presence of the establishment is going to look. And we're going to be limiting ourselves on lighting possibilities.
Okay, Mr. Thibodeau.
I'm comfortable going along with doing the front of the building tonight, but I would like to ask Mr. Rochon a question.
Sure.
Would you be more comfortable having, maybe allowing 2 or 3 temporary banners with the logos on them on the building until we sort it all out, versus doing this and we do the front and then you may not get exactly what you want when you come back after that?
Well, one of my concerns is, and then as we work with customers and we work with their brands, we try to keep it consistent throughout the whole thing. I mean, that's how brands usually work. So and that's why I was asking for the board's consideration of allowing us just to do the front so that he can open. He's been, and I understand the quorum does happen, and we did miss December, and here we are in January, but now we're looking at possibly meeting again sometime in February. And then by the time we actually start fabrication, he's probably looking at getting signage in March. And I know that right now with COVID and this economy, that can seriously impact a restaurant such as this. So I'm just being upfront and honest. I know that we've done other locations for him so that the look of the letters is pretty consistent with his whole brand. I can definitely talk to him about that with but I mean, again, I guess I'm just asking not to wait another 30 days to give him some signage other than a banner. And again, with what's happening right now out there in the economy, I'm just looking out for the best interest of my customer.
So, Mr. Rochon, I'll just add that when his daughter appeared before the council, I mean, I don't know that a January opening was what was discussed. Not that that had any impact on, on what their approval was, but I think the message that you're hearing tonight, and you can take this back to your client, is pumping the brakes is probably in everybody's best interest. That, if he wants to open next week, you're going to have the ability to have some signage temporary that lets people know that. I don't see that final decision on any of this is going to impact how many people go or don't go in there. So, I mean, just you make whatever decision you want on behalf of your client who's not here, but I would just offer that to you.
Okay.
I think one of the other things that I would say is attempting to go forward with just the signage on the front of the building would be a very calculated gamble, because if that signage were to go up and members of this board drive down Metacom, look at the signage and go, yep, I see the building. It's perfectly well advertised. Everybody knows where it is. Your next signage application before this board could very well get met with, I know where it is. I could see it coming a mile away. You don't need more signage.
And that's one of the reasons why I was suggesting maybe allowing him to have 2 or 3 banners that they could put the logo on just to get off the ground, so we don't do this piecemeal and then they don't get what they want or we don't get what we want. That's why I was suggesting a temporary solution with maybe 2 or 3 banners.
To the best of my knowledge, I don't think that the ordinance puts any limit on temporary signage, correct?
There might be, is it 30 days, Ben, for a temporary sign?
Correct. 30 days in a calendar year. Again,
Yeah.
the building officials here, so he's very reasonable in terms of enforcing the ordinance.
But perhaps we could we allow some flexibility in that the temporary signage could be permitted until the point that the permanent signage is installed?
I think we can be flexible on that. I mean, as an example, when McDonald's was reopening, they wanted to have an inflatable Ronald McDonald on top of the building. I
Don't
said,
we
that's
all?
not acceptable.
Grimace.
We're not going to do that. But, they had one simple banner in front of the building and then maybe one smaller, some ground signs. I think that, we can be flexible and people are going to know they're open. I mean,
I would say, I'm assuming the business has a website and you probably have online ordering or you have an app. Is that correct?
I believe he does. We've worked with him in a few locations, and it does seriously impact the numbers when he doesn't actually have the signage up. And that the funny thing is, ironically, I mean, we do a lot of different signage for Baja's when his canopies and his signage are all together. They make a big difference in his overall people coming into the restaurant. And one without the other is just it's funny. It just doesn't work.
Yeah,
The
so
signage
I think
up,
what
canopies.
we're trying to explain is that we've spent an hour on this already, and
Sorry.
you're not going to get the total answer that you want tonight.
No, it's okay.
So, I mean, if the board is willing to allow whatever temporary signage without it being ostentatious, and if it is, we'll let them know, either
Okay.
through the building official or myself, and then kind of refine what the final acceptable plan is. We don't want to hold people up from getting started, but we also understand the challenges of in the restaurant business, not even getting help. So I don't think you're going to get the total answer that you're looking for tonight. And we have other members of the community that should hear their applications heard
I can
before
respect
midnight.
Yes. So I would say if your question, the canopies are not in question. If you want to put up the canopies with whatever it says on there that's not advertising, it says salads or fresh tacos or whatever it says, the canopies are not a factor here. So you can certainly put that up. But I would say I am also not inclined to do this piecemeal, that we need one process to address the signage as a comprehensive package for this building, for this site. So I am also recommending that you can have some temporary signs, some banners, work with the building official and the zoning official, the planner, town planner. There can be some flexibility in the amount of time that those temporary signs are up, but I don't think it's unreasonable to have a comprehensive approach to this signage package, and it will still allow you to open. You can put up the QR thing in a temporary way. You could, omit the graphics, the advertising part from that, but just have a QR code on, a piece of laminated poster board or something that you can put temporarily on that menu board so people can use it. But I think we need to address this comprehensively.
And I think the murals, I know, Bob, you had mentioned that Blount had put murals up. These murals actually have the signature pepper that's on the Baja sign. So someone needs to make a determination as to whether that's advertising or whether it's art.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think if it's not script, art is art, and Blount took some liberties with what they did, but as long as it's not, saying something, I'm okay with that.
So again, if you're going to, Mr. Roshan, if you want to present something else for the murals or whatever, a different concept or, part of your signage redesign program, however you want to incorporate the murals, if it just has graphics and art, I would say it's.
Sorry, I'm having Zoom issues right now. I apologize.
Hold on, I'm just waiting to see if you come back here.
So my case in point is you see I'm sharing the screen, you see
Yep.
that there, and it's clearly part of the sign. It's their signature pepper.
Oh, that's to me signage. Spice up your life is like a slogan. It's part of this. At the moment, I wouldn't be inclined to call that art, but I think that's neither here nor there right now, because I think it needs to be part of a comprehensive new proposal on how we're addressing the graphics and signage, on the building. I think the ordinance does in fact say that signage could be as simple as a signature color or shape that identifies your business. It's not necessarily just text, the name and words of your business, but there are graphics associated with your business. So I think it's in your best interest and your client's best interest, if you would like to request that we continue this to the next meeting with the stipulation that you can have some temporary signage you can open, you get your QR code so it's usable. But I think that would be the advisable way.
Without a logo, correct?
Correct. Don't put, the QR code, don't put the final thing in. We might be negotiating. If you just put the QR code up there so they can scan it. But in terms of the actual graphics, the logo, the name, any of that advertising type of stuff needs to be part of a comprehensive package.
And he have the banners say Baja's on it? I think that was his question.
Yeah, I think, the temporary, Are you talking about the temporary signs, Mr. Roshan? You can put whatever you want that is not garish and,
Actually, I was talking about the menu board.
You were talking about the menu. I would say, put the QR code, on there. If it needs to be a temporary thing that says this is the Baja's QR code or some instructions on what to do, I would say don't commit yourself to making the final sign for that menu board, because that might be part of the discussion, whether that is internally illuminated or what have you. But you can put something up there that identifies it as Baja's with the QR code.
Maybe we can do a temporary banner over that, and that would
Something,
just be
something.
Yeah,
anything that you're putting up at this point is going to be temporary.
To not take up any more of the board's time, can I just I just want to refine this lighting design. Is there anything else that the board is asking us for as far as looks to come back with?
So I think you've heard what the suggestions are, that we'd be looking for a proposal that shows reduced quantity of signage, So whether you're eliminating some, reducing the size of some, something, the pylon seems to be a popular item for eliminating altogether. And we've also like to see different proposals for the way in which whatever signage you're proposing would be illuminated, and whether that's a mix of your internally illuminated letters or the halo lit or downlit. You come up with a creative idea that you think best conveys your client's intent and responds to some of the comments we've made. Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Francis.
Also, next time we meet, you might want to bring the owner or at least the ability to negotiate on his behalf.
Absolutely.
That's a
I think
valid
that's-
point.
I think that's very, yes.
Yes, it definitely helps when you have the ability to consult with the ultimate decision maker.
So is there a motion to continue this to the February meeting? Is that what the request, Mr. Rochon, I mean, you're really here on behalf of your client. Is that what your request is?
That would have to be my request.
Yes, you're correct.
Yeah. So, okay, so is there a motion to continue this to the February meeting with the provision that the applicant will be allowed some temporary signage so he can open his business, temporary signage that is coordinated with the building and zoning official and the town planner?
I'll make that motion. This is Barrett Holby, Vice
Mr.
Chair.
Holby has just made.
Mr. Rainone, I'll second.
Okay, I will do the roll call. Mr. Rainone,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
Mr. Ellis,
Aye,
and
Mr. Elms.
Mr. Alves, yes, sorry, it keeps going
Aye.
off my screen. And Mr. Francis, just for grins, go ahead and vote. Good, there you go.
All right, so you've heard what we've asked for, Mr. Rochon, and I would just like to say this is not unique to this application, that this has been so laborious. These signage applications usually are and usually require more than one hearing to refine the design. So please don't think that we're particularly, putting a burden on you or this business. This is pretty typical of what we see with these signage applications, particularly ones that have a very large and complex signage program. Okay, with that, thank you, Mr. Rochon. You can meet with your client and we'll hopefully see you in February.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, have a good evening. Moving right along, it appears we are at number 3 on new business, application 2201. Daniel and Christine Barlow, the owners and applicant, at 15 Shore Drive, Plat 17, Lot 135. There's a request for a special use permit under 3277.1 for relief from the side and front yard setback. Is this a dimensional variance?
Mr. Ellis, if I may, I also saw that this application is in the form of a petition for a special use. However, the advertisement is also in the package, and it does show properly that it's for a dimensional variance. I'm satisfied that the public has knowledge, although it's on the wrong petition, that we can proceed, and it is a request for dimensional variance.
Okay, so this is a request for a dimensional variance, and it's reasonable to expect that a member of the public could surmise that from the materials that have been filed. So they're seeking relief from the side and front yard setbacks and 3276.A to construct an attached garage addition to an existing non-conforming structure in the R20 district. So is there a member from the applicant's party here?
Mr. Barlow is here. I don't know if he has anyone else that needs to be admitted to the meeting, but I have made Mr. Barlow a panelist.
Okay,
Yeah, this
so-
is, sorry.
Hello.
Hi, this is Christine Barlow, his wife, and our architect, Marianne Agresti, is also waiting, and she could be
I will
admitted.
let her in.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you, Mrs. Barlow. do you want to give us an overview, or would you like the architect to explain the?
I'll just give a general introduction. My husband and I moved here last May to be closer to my aging mom who lives down the street. And we were lucky enough to find a house in the neighborhood. But it is my husband and I and our two young girls who are 6 and 8 currently in this house, which is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, all on one level. So we are hoping to renovate, and Mary Ann can speak more to exactly what we're requesting. But essentially, I believe the major basis of the relief is because our house is currently non-conforming on one side. So it's the garage is actually, I believe, would be within our allowable setbacks, and actually less potentially. We made it smaller because we wanted a side yard for our girls to play in and have a playground. So,
and so the description maybe leaves a little bit off. It is a garage addition, but it's also a second floor added onto the house. Is that correct? And then other associated improvements.
yeah, we have a walk-up attic right now that we can get to, but it's not in use for anything. So
you're adding a second floor, and you're adding a garage and a connector piece and some other improvements around the property. And it is the existing side of the house that is the non-conformity.
That's my understanding,
So, yeah.
but yeah.
And so that non-conformity extends to, since you're raising the roof higher, you now have the structure being taller, continuing in that same non-conforming area. But it appears you're not changing the footprint. You're not getting any closer to the side. You're just going up on that side.
That's my understanding. I will let architects speak to more specifics. And the other thing that I mentioned is we're very friendly with all of our neighbors, and we've talked to everybody around us, and they seem supportive of everybody, including a brand new neighbor next door. So
okay. So is the architect available?
There she is.
Yep, Marianne Agresti. Ms.
Yes.
Agresti.
I am. That's hello. Yeah. Hello.
Yep. So if you can just confirm. So the 2-story part of the house, you're building on the existing footprint. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And so the non-conformity of the side setback is not being changed from what it currently is.
Correct. We are not in any way worsening the situation in plan.
Okay. And the garage addition is conforming with all the setbacks required for that?
Yes.
All right. And your lot coverage is conforming?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to explain, particularly why this is a hardship due to the lot non-conformity, and what would be the impact on the functionality of this house if it was not to be granted?
Yeah. I think if you look at the existing conditions drawings, you'll see that the single floor of habitable space has 2 small bedrooms. I think they are drawn in plan. Has 2, maybe the next sheet. Here you go. Oh, no, those are the proposed. These are out of order, but either way, it has.
I believe you that there's, it's obvious.
There's no dining room, there's a small living room. So basically, now that they are here, and again, their family will grow, the idea is that the hardship is to have their family have space to actually live and thrive here. With COVID, there's a bit more spending time at home. So that's also, I think, a really important part of this progress. We're not, the building coverage, even with the addition, is still at 11.9%. So we feel like this is still a really reasonable volume for the neighborhood, and works well with the other structures. So.
Yeah. So the only thing we're dealing with here is the setback on the side of the building.
Yeah, that's really all it is. It's a request, and I did read in section 32771 that this was supposed to be a special permit, and we've done other properties on Shore Drive that were special permit with this same exact request. So excuse if it was labeled incorrectly, but essentially it's a dimensional variance.
So let me just ask the solicitor, was it the special use because we're extending a non-conformity, meaning that we're extending this now vertically?
Correct. However, the ordinance that she's talking about talks about just non-conformity to side yard. I believe this is non-conformity to frontage also, therefore requires a variance. And again, it was
Yeah, the
publicly
overlay
advertised.
district
Correct,
language is confusing.
correct. It does require a variance.
So just a variance, we don't also need a special use,
Correct.
okay? And so, okay, so the variance, and I believe we've been corrected here, so it's with regard to the side yard setback plus the existing frontage does not meet the requirement for this overlay district.
Yeah, you can see
Again,
the
yeah.
2 5 inches right here. It overlaps on the front setback, just that little bit.
Oh, all right, so, okay, we've got 3 things now, so
No, it's 2.
I think with the solicitor, is it also the length of the frontage of the lot is a problem?
Correct. The ordinance that, the section in the ordinance that she's referring to specifically talks about non-conformity to side lot coverage. And this one obviously goes into the front, therefore needs a variance.
Oh, not the front, not the width of the lot, it's this front setback, it's non-conforming. Right, is the lot width correct?
No, it's non-conformity. I believe
Okay.
it's 90 feet.
So the 90, is that what it is, 90 feet and 100 is required? I'm just trying to make sure we get all the
Correct.
points enumerated. All right, so,
It's
So
120.
Minimum frontage for R20 is 120, and we have
Correct.
90.
Correct.
all right, so it's 120, you have 90, so, okay, so that's one non-conformity. Then we've got the side yard setback where, what is that, 30 feet is required?
It looks like 20 feet is required.
20
And my
and-
question is, that 1 foot bump out in section and elevation seems to be on the first floor, but is that an existing condition of the house, or is that bay window being added as part of the renovation?
It's an existing bay window, thinking that if the wall is approved, that a wall can have a 1 foot bump out, a legal wall at a setback. So that was the proposal.
Well, if it's an existing bay window on the first floor, that would still be functionally a setback concern. I'm just trying to figure out if we need to note this as a setback of 6 foot 4 inches or 7 foot 4 inches.
It's not an existing window. It's a proposed bay window
Okay.
on the new
Okay.
wall.
Okay, so the actual distance from the property line to the physical structure is 6 feet 4, taking into account that bump out?
To the existing structure at 7-4, and then
Yeah,
at
I've got that, yes.
that one location, it's a bay window, not a foundation, but a bay window that bumps out as allowed within.
Okay. So it's not, it doesn't extend down to the ground, it's cantilevered, it's a bay window hanging off the building. So we don't, okay, so the purpose of the ordinance, the setback is to the foundation, the structure itself, not the 1 foot that's allowable for the bay window. All right, so we've got 7 feet 4 on the side. And then we also have 2 feet 5 or 2.5 feet at the front that is a problem. All right, so we've got 3 things. We've got the 90 feet where 120 is required. We've got the 32.5 where 35 is required, and we've got 7.4 where 20 is required.
Mhm.
Yep, okay, so those are the 3 things we're evaluating. So if, Ms. Agresti, if you want to continue, just explain, you know, what is, I mean, obviously the house is existing, you're not changing the footprint of it. And if you were forced to make the new addition on the second floor conform to these setbacks, what would be the hardship there?
That wouldn't allow us to provide 2 bedrooms on the second floor. There won't be enough area for a stairway as well as a hall and 2 bedrooms. So the space, the second floor within the setback allows for 2 bedrooms for the family on the second floor, providing living space on the first floor.
All right, so the setbacks would make the second floor basically untenable. It wouldn't provide them with ample living space. If you had to maintain the setbacks on the second floor, it's not going to be workable to meet their needs.
We wouldn't be able to reuse the existing foundation. And I think in this neighborhood, there's a real value in being resourceful to things that are existing and to keep the spirit and fabric of the neighborhood. So we saw value in being able to sort of build up.
Good. Okay, let's go through the board. Mr. Raynone, you had started. Did you have something else in mind?
No, I think that answered all my questions.
Okay, Mr. Holby. I think you're on mute, Mr. Holby. I think you're still muted, Mr. Holby. Well, we can come, you're on mute. Well, let's come back. We'll circle back to you in a moment, Barrett. Mr. Elves, do you have something to offer?
I think this is well presented. I'm okay, no questions.
Okay, Mr. Francis.
I too am satisfied. I think it looks very thorough and very self-explanatory.
Okay, Mr. Thibodeau.
It's all, I mean, it's all pre-existing non-conformity. So unless one of us doesn't like that bump out window, it's really nothing they can do here. They're kind of stuck with what they purchased.
Okay, Mr. Holby, are you able to communicate?
I am. I'm sorry about that.
Excellent. Oh, no, not at all. Go ahead.
Um,
I mean, you're the resident expert sort of in, projects in this general area.
Well, I think it's will make an improvement to the area, and having a garage is nice to get the cars off the street. So it looks okay to me, that's for sure.
Okay, let us go then to the public portion of this application. So if there's anyone in the public that wants to offer any sort of commentary, please make some sort of indication, preferably using the raise your hand icon.
Yeah, there might be someone, so I'm going to just give me a moment. Somebody by the name of Craig that would like to comment. I'm trying to promote him. Craig, if you could unmute yourself if you're not already, and identify yourself, first name and address, and whatever comments you have, if this is an application you wanted to speak to.
He just remuted himself. So if you could, again, unmute yourself from back to the way you were. There you go.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Craig Lippman. I am a member of the Warren Harbor Management Commission.
Can you just give us your address, please? Craig, if you could just give your...
Shore Drive.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Hey, go ahead,
I am a neighbor, and I'm also a member of the Warren Harbor Management Commission. We have been very sensitive to the public right of access, and we'd like to commend the applicant for respecting the right-of-ways as they exist and sustaining the right-of-ways as they were.
Okay.
So you are supportive of the application?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone else waiting to comment?
Let me just check. I do not see anyone, Mr. Ellis.
Okay, so I think we can close the public portion. We'll bring it back to the board for further discussion. Does anyone else have any other questions from the board or need any further clarification on what the hardships are here and why they need these variances? Okay, no one seems to have anything further. Ms. Agresti, do you have any other points you'd like to make with regard to the design?
If there aren't any further questions, no.
Thank you. Mr. and Mrs. Barlow, anything that you'd like to add?
Nope, other than just to add, we're quite aware of the right of way, and we've actually been talking to neighbors about different ways. It's quite soggy, so different ways that we could help improve, so that way they can access it.
Better
So,
utilize, yeah.
yeah, so we're hoping to do some rain barrels and stuff like that. That way there's not as much flow in there. So we're well aware.
I'm sure that would be very appreciated in the neighborhood. With that, would someone care to make a motion on this application?
This is Mr. Raynone. I'll move approval of application 22-01. Daniel and Christine Barlow, owner and applicant of 15 Shore Drive, plat map 17, lot 135. Request for a dimensional variance under section 32-77.1 for relief from the side and front yard setbacks, and section 32-76A to construct an attached garage addition to an existing non-conforming structure in an R20 zoning district. In approving this variance, we will note that the hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject land or structure. There is an existing home on the structure, which is already a non-conforming structure, and the existing footprint of that structure will be respected in this renovation. We will note that the hardship is not the result of any prior action of the applicant, and that granting the requested variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. We have heard testimony both from the applicant and from abutters that the renovation will be respecting the current right-of-ways available to the public that allow for public access down to the waterfront. We will also note that the relief to be granted is the least relief necessary. If the second floor and additional construction was to limit itself to within the existing dimensional setbacks required by the zoning code, the second floor would be non-functional and would not serve the needs of a growing family. If we were to not grant this variance, the relief would be, the hardship would be more than a mere inconvenience to the applicants, as the existing home would not adequately serve space for their growing family.
And did we get all three actual dimensions into the motion?
I can do those now. The actual numerical relief would be a front yard side setback of 32.5, 32 foot 6 inches, where 35 is required, a frontage dimension of 90 feet, where 120 feet is required, and a side yard setback of 7 foot 4 inches, where 20 feet is required.
Jason, may I also recommend a condition as the application notes possible approvals from CRMC, so all local and state approvals conditions?
So we would amend the motion to include that the applicant must meet all necessary applications, CRMC applications and approvals, and all necessary DEM applications and approvals.
Okay, are there any other conditions? Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Barrett.
Barrett is the one I heard second it. So
Mr. Holby seconded. I'll do the roll call. Mr. Ellis,
aye.
Mr. Raynone,
Aye.
Mr. Alves,
Aye.
Mr. Holby, sorry,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
and Mr. Francis. Because you paid to be here tonight.
Okay, so the record will reflect it passed 5-0. Congratulations. I hope you're successful in getting this house built. Next, we are on number 6 of new business. We have application 2202. This is for Brandon Young, the owner, and Matthew Salvis, the applicant, 141 Vernon Street, plat 15B, lot 73. A request for a dimensional variance under 3277 for relief from the side yard setbacks to construct a farmer's porch on an existing non-conforming structure in the R10 zoning district. Is there a representative for this application available?
I believe Matthew has been promoted to a
Okay.
panelist and here to speak to the
All
application.
right, Mr. Salvis, if you could unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Matthew Salvis here. I'm a general contractor. Brandon Young is actually a close friend of mine, and he actually served with me in the Army as my sergeant.
Very nice.
We are requesting a variance from the side yard setbacks, which I think is about 5'11", give or take. There is a separating fence between the properties. We are building a farmer's porch on the front of the house. It will be within a dimensional variance of the road. As you can, I think they should be, yeah, if you want to go down. The setback from the road, when the structure is built, is going to be about 29 feet from the side yard. It's going to stay the same. Sorry for the shady drawings, excuse me. But these actual, I think that's at 6 foot. Oh, I don't know why it says 8. It's actually, it's between 6 foot and 5'11". We don't have the actual stakes mapped out directly, but that's where the separation fence is. So we are extending the front of the house just with a farmer's porch, and the only area that we're non-compliant in currently is on that side left yard.
All right. So firstly, thank you both for your service. It's greatly appreciated. And secondly, so the farmer's porch is going to be, you said about 30 feet from the sidewalk in the front?
Yeah, so it's like 29'6", give or take. I don't know if there's any setbacks on the property line for the town. I believe that is a state owned road. So I don't know if there's any actual setbacks from the edge of the road into the property, but from the edge of the sidewalk, it is 30 feet. So that's not even including to the road.
All right, and the required setback.
It is 25, I believe.
Is required or allowed 25, and you're maintaining 30. So there's no problem there. And then on the side that's to the right, you've got 17 feet, and that is 15 required. So you're all set there. So it's just this one side that has the 6 feet, and that is the existing setback of the house. You're not making it any worse than it already is.
I am not extending the structure to the left side of the property anymore.
So you're just lining up with what's already
Just
there.
just lining up. It's the problem is that it is non-conforming, but the house has been there. I think it's 50 years. So
Okay, that seems pretty logical. Let's hear from the board. Mr. Holby, do you have any questions about this dimensional variance?
I don't have any questions. In my site visit, I noticed that the porch is parallel to the existing side of the house. The neighbor's house to the west is actually much closer to the road, even after the farmer's porch is installed on this particular house. So it's still further set back.
I did actually measure that today. They are 12'10" to the road. Just
12 foot
more.
10
Yeah,
to the road.
And they have a porch as well. It's an enclosed porch, but it's certainly, consistent with the neighborhood.
That's correct, I believe. And then on the third house down to the east is also much closer to the road. So it's won't impact the neighborhood, at least from the street side, really.
Okay.
So I don't think it's frankly, I don't think it's a big deal.
All right, Mr. Thibodeau, do you have any feelings on this?
I'm fine with it.
Excellent. How about Mr. Francis? What are your thoughts?
I think it will actually add character to the house and create an overall appeal.
Agreed. Mr. Alves?
Yep, I believe it's the least that they could ask for, so I agree with it.
And Mr. Rainone?
Agreed. Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay, let's see if anyone in the public would like to make commentary on this application.
There's no one, Mr. Ellis.
There's no one. All right, we'll close the public portion of the application. Do any members of the board require any further description or clarification of this matter? Apparently not. Mr. Selvas, do you have any parting thoughts you'd like to offer?
I just want to say thank you guys for understanding and for your commentary. I really appreciate all of it.
Well, thank you for waiting out this meeting.
It's been a long one. I cannot listen about Baja's signs anymore. So
You can come back next month.
Oh, yes.
I'm honestly, I'm curious. I will be curious to see where that is. So while we're in Warren, I will be checking for the signs on the front of that building anytime we're there.
Okay. So having concluded that, would someone like to make a motion on this application?
Going once,
Anyone?
going twice.
I'll try it. I'll give Jason a break. This is Vice Chair Barrett Holby. Wait a second. For application 22-2, Brandon Young, owner, and Matthew Salvis, applicant, 141 Vernon Street, plat 15B, lot 73. Request for a dimensional variance under section 32-77 for relief from the side yard setbacks to construct a farmer's porch on an existing non-conforming structure in the R10 zoning district. It's shown that the hardship is due to the unique characteristics of the subject structure. It is already an existing non-conforming lot, somewhere between 5 and 6'8" to the property fence, which we're not sure is quite in the right spot. The porch will not go any closer to the property line and parallels the east side of the existing building. All the other sides are conforming and well in bounds. The hardship is not a result of any prior action of the applicant, and the applicant is not doing this for greater gain. He's trying to make the house nicer and more livable with some more room. And the granting of the variance will not alter the general character of the surrounding area. And the request conforms with the purpose and intent of the Warren zoning ordinance. It will be an improvement to the property and the street, in the opinion of the board and the applicant. That's why he's doing it. And the relief requested is the least necessary. And in not granting it, the applicant will not be able to, he's improving his house all around, and it's a big construction job. So I think this will add character, and without improving it, it will in some ways diminish the property, I think.
Okay, are there any conditions or amendments? Is there a second?
This is Mr. Rainone, I'll second.
I'll do the roll call. Mr. Ellis,
Aye.
Mr. Rainone,
Aye.
Mr. Holby,
Aye.
Mr. Thibodeau,
Aye.
Mr. Alves,
Aye.
and Mr. Francis.
For posterity, aye.
Okay,
Always good.
very good. The motion is approved, 5-0. So do enjoy the porch. Good luck getting it built.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a great night.
All right, you as well. So the one remaining matter I would like to propose moving to next month when Mr. Nystrom is back. But if there are any initial comments, we could entertain them. But also it might be beneficial between now and the next meeting if anyone has any proposed modifications to the rules of procedure, if they want to send me those comments in an email so I can compile all the suggestions together, that could be helpful.
Ben, I want to just ask a question. Should that initial conversation with respect to this be done in executive session, and then whatever the resolution is or whatever comes out of that could be discussed in public?
You're talking about just the procedures of the board?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Yeah,
procedures.
you can discuss that publicly, the procedures.
Okay.
aspect of
I
it.
think we did when we first came up with them. I don't think there was anything secretive about it.
Correct.
So
I'm
does
just
anyone-
asking this in reference to the sensitivity on the Laurel Lane issue.
All right, well, that's a different animal there. But in terms of just our general published rules and procedures, if we want, I mean, I don't see any problem discussing those in public.
Okay, I just wanted to, whatever you just decide.
So did anyone have any thoughts that they wanted to express this month?
I think there's a clerical issue.
Yes.
In bullet A under heading 10.
Yeah, there were a couple of little clerical things that I think we probably need to clean up.
I think the general intent of the rules have been going along relatively well. I'm not sure how stringently we're holding to the you must apply 35 days before the zoning meeting, because that would imply that we would know what's on the next agenda before the previous meeting is held. I don't know if that, I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask for 35 days lead time. I don't know whether or not that's.
I mean, I from the town's position, that's a little bit of disservice to the residents. I mean, as long as we're meeting the advertising and notification guidelines, which is basically, we need to advertise 2 weeks before the meeting and get the abutters notices out 14 days before the meeting. I think that should be what the deadline is, to unnecessarily burden somebody that has an application on a 35-day I don't think that's reasonable. We've been for the last year doing it, basically saying, you have 2 weeks before the meeting to let us know what you want to do. We'll advertise it and we'll get the abutters notices out. 35 days, in my opinion, is unreasonable and not fair to the residents.
I think my initial reaction to that would be 2 weeks from an advertising standpoint makes sense. But from a logistical standpoint, there needs to be some amount of time prior to that in order for those notices and publications to be created and then issued for public consumption.
Yeah, we create them, instantaneously. I mean, I don't see that to be the hardship. I mean, no other board takes that extra 35 days. That 35 days adds an extra month to somebody having to come before your board. And that's unreasonable in my opinion.
The board can debate the merits of that. I know when it was first introduced, the issue was that materials were not being delivered in a timely fashion and did not allow enough time for the packets to be created, to be sent to the members in a timely fashion, to give them ample time to review the applications, which is why it was made so that there was a more extended period of time, but we can certainly discuss.
Yeah, and I would
whether
just
that has
suggest,
merit.
this came up at the Historic District Commission last night. If an application, and we do this on comprehensive permit applications, if somebody submits an application and it's not complete, either the building official or myself can just say that the application is not complete and it's not going to go forward this month.
Well, I think that was also part of the problem when this was originally implemented, is that we were receiving numerous applications that did not meet the completion level of the checklist. And
that's incumbent on the applicant it's incumbent on the applicant to follow the checklist. I just think that, if we're going to, you pick 35 days, you're adding a month to somebody that wants to move forward on a project. If they've got a complete application and the requirements under the state statute are notice is this and this, then we should be complying with that, not just arbitrarily picking a 35-day timeline. And I'll defer to the solicitor on that.
I think that's a policy decision, Bob and Andrew. I think that's just something that was, again, I remember that conversation that was had, and also limiting how many applications, how many old, how many new, and the time frame and all that conversation was going on. That's certainly, that's a policy decision. I'm not exactly sure why we came up with the board and the town came up with 35 days, but certainly this board can continue to discuss the number of days appropriate. Nothing's preventing you, Bob, or anybody in the building official's office from, submitting something after, within that 35 days, accepting an application for this board. I think it was there more to protect the town and the building official's office to make sure they had enough time to get it ready. But again, it's policy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the council needs to weigh in on this because, again, if, I mean, I've lived through this in Newport. I mean, I've seen zoning meetings go to midnight. I mean, it shouldn't be a penalty to an applicant because a board can't be efficient going through an application. If they submit an incomplete application, then they shouldn't have the ability to go forward. They should be notified of that. And maybe that's the correction, but I mean, I'm happy to continue this conversation, but I just don't think it's good policy on the town's part to, establish these arbitrary, outside of the advertising deadlines, that you're going to be penalized a month. And if you don't put in a complete application, you don't go forward.
Well, I think, we can continue to discuss it as a board, but certainly the policies and procedures are, at the pleasure of the board, so to speak, that what the board feels are appropriate for conducting these board meetings. So we can debate, whether there is a different suggestion of a different time length that might be appropriate. We can certainly have that as one of the points for discussion on what is that time constraint requirement and what are its merits or what are its possible drawbacks. Were there other topics that people had any initial thoughts on? Doesn't sound like there's any other hot button issues there. So if there are other, clerical corrections or other suggestions, if you want to forward those to me so we can compile them into a list that we want to go over, that would be fine. And then we can have our discussion when full board is present, including Mr. Nystrom at next month's meeting. So would someone like to make a motion that we continue this discussion onto the next agenda?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second, Chuck.
Okay,
Mr. Ellis?
favor, I think we can just do a voice.
Yeah, as an
vote.
administrative matter, I think it's, you can just.
Aye,
make
we're
it.
all,
Aye.
Aye.
we're in favor of that. Any other administrative business, or would we like to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second it. I'll third it.
Favor? Aye.
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 Gentlemen, I want to apologize in December for not being able to attend. I had a heating system that went out, and so tonight's long meeting is probably my fault. I really am sorry. And the heating system's fixed. It got fixed that night. So thanks again, and I will be on top.
No worries.
Okay. Hopefully we'll see everyone potentially in person for next month.